And good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the ACHA Power Play. We are live here on the Captain Lou Sports Network. And of course, we are powered up by Belly Up Sports, the Belly Up network of podcasts here tonight as we get going on this Tuesday, December the 6th, 2022. How y'all doing tonight? It's a great night to talk some hockey. We've got a great lineup of guests coming up here shortly. We're going to be joined by the head coach of the Calvin University Men's Division One, ranked, I believe, 8th in the country in Division One. That being Mike Petrusma. He'll stop by. He was one of the two coaches named to be a head coach, co-coach, or whatever you want to call it, of the World University Games coming up in Romania in April. And Mike will stop by and talk about that. Also, they've got a pretty good tournament coming up in Grand Rapids this weekend. It's the 4 Division One ACHA teams: Kelvin, Grand Valley, Aquinas, and Davenport. A lot of history there with those teams. So, without any further ado, let's go to the guest line and let's bring in the head coach of Calvin University, Mike Petrusma. Mike, thanks for taking time out tonight. How are you?
Good. How you doing, Lou?
I'm great. Hey, thanks for being on tonight. You got a lot going on your plate. I know with the World University Games coming up and this tournament coming up this weekend in Grand Rapids, but you've had a great start to the season. I know you had a little bit of a rough stretch this past weekend, but a good start to the season for you so far.
Yeah, overall, I'm pretty happy. We've got anywhere from 10 to 12 freshmen in the lineup each night. And so for a young squad, it's coming together. A veteran Indiana Tech team taught my young squad what it actually means to be a top 10 team in ACHA D1. But yeah, last time I checked, most of the time teams don't go undefeated.
No.
In hockey titles. So
right.
I think we're at the point, honestly, Lou, where we needed to get a little smack in the face, wake up a little bit. And Indiana Tech definitely provided that for us this past weekend.
You and I have talked about this before. We all know you've made a good journey from D3 to D1 in a relatively short period of time, Mike. You were at the top just about in 2017, and you made the jump to D1. Now you're doing very well in D1 this year. You made the tournament the COVID year. Just to tell everybody again, how tough was that transition to jump from D3 to D1?
Well, it's the caliber of player, right, and the caliber of play now. Back in the day when we were in our last couple of seasons at D3, we definitely had players on our roster like Aquinas did and Hope currently does that play at the A1 level. The biggest climb was to have a lot of them, right? So we would have a handful of them to start. You had to continually try to build that depth on your roster. Because the top 10 teams in ACHA D1 are not only very, very talented, but they're talented throughout their lineup. So to be able to compete against them for 60 minutes, you need to be able to at least match the ability and the caliber of players that they have. And then you start getting into the conversation yourself as being a top-ranked team in ACHA D1.
Well, you have done that, and it's fun to watch you every week. You're very competitive, and really looking forward to seeing what you're doing with the rest of the season. But before we get to that, it was announced last week, Mike, that you, along with Gary Astalis, are going to be coaching in the World University Games in Romania. That's quite an honor, and I know that's going to put a lot on your plate. But if you could, Mike, tell us a little bit about how that came about.
So I think let me make sure that there's a clarification there. So we're playing in the University World Cup of Hockey.
Okay.
And it's different than the World University Games, which are being held in Lake Placid.
Okay.
So what that basically means, though, is that the EUHL, which is the European University Hockey League, is hosting a tournament, and they are the equivalent to the ACHA over in Europe. That's the governing body for them. And so they're going to take all-star teams from all the various countries there, and we're going to compete at this World University Cup of Hockey. So then how that came about was there's always been a relationship between the ACHA and the EUHL. The EUHL's founders came over numerous times over here to North America and the U.S. to see how the ACHA was structured, what kind of rules they use, et cetera, et cetera. And then they took that blueprint, went over to Europe and started this, I would say probably about 12 years ago now, 14 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it's grown rapidly over there. So the relationships between the two associations dates back to the inception of the EUHL. So that's how it came to be. Now that we're past COVID, everybody feels comfortable in putting on an event like this. So to be able to have a U.S. based team representing the ACHA, as well as a Canadian based team, or based team maybe not the correct term, but we've got over 500 Canadians that compete in the ACHA at all different levels. So it's something that's really great for our Canadian kids that play here, as well as for the U.S. kids, obviously.
Where, with everything that you do, Mike, where are you going to find time to get a roster to put together for this? It's just another added thing for you. I know it's a labor of love, but oh my goodness, how many hours of the day do you need?
Well, so my wife would have an opinion on that, right? But basically, it's a collaborative effort, right? So I have two wonderful assistant coaches in Mike Joseph and Robert Morris and Jeremy Law from Missouri State. And then I'm also collaborating with a bunch of coaches across the country because it's hard to see everybody play. Mm-hmm. And so to me, it's a collaborative effort. When I was part of the teams that we took over at the D3 level a number of years ago, it was a collaborative effort creating rosters for that too. So I have some experience with that, and it's great to see all the ACHA coaches get behind this and helping us. And I know Gary's doing the same thing for the U.S. side. So it's really a great to see everybody really working hard to be able to create the best rosters for both teams. Also, then that lends to a quality experience for the guys heading over there.
Well, in between that, you've got to concentrate on your own team. And you mentioned that you've had some good young players on the team. I want to kind of touch on those real quick. I got to tell you, Mike, you guys are putting some points on the board to start the season. I'm trying to bring up the list here of the skaters, just from your statistics, and it's amazing to me. You've got you look at Jacob Sybinga, and you've got Christoph Petroya and Kyle Van Duzen, all over 30 points. But you go down the list, and you've got 7 guys over 20 points, and another 4 or 5 over 10. A good balance of players and a good balance of scoring for you, and some good firepower.
Yeah, we're. When you go through the recruiting process, right, you're trying to find the best players you possibly can who will then fit academically at Calvin.
Yeah.
Making sure that we've got the right academic program for them and that it's a really good fit that way. And that takes a lot of time and that takes a lot of effort for sure. But yeah, it's been a great group. We had last year was somewhat of a struggle for us. We were a little light on numbers, ran into some injury issues. But we always competed. And so when we had the transition going into this year, it was more or less, okay, what can we add to the great nucleus of players we have coming back? Mm-hmm. So we were able to do that. And it's been a lot of fun. Collectively, we've got really, it's a really good locker room. The guys, do they get together or do they get along together 24/7? No. But you know what? You can tell that they like and love each other, right? Yeah. And so they're starting to still figure each other out a little bit. But we've got a fun-loving group, and it's been a lot of fun to be around them. And so we're gonna, hopefully head out this weekend, and we've got Davenport Friday, and then the winner or loser between Grand Valley and Aquinas on Saturday.
Well, that's going to be a fun tournament. I like what they're putting together. I know there was talk a couple of years ago, I think, that you guys were trying to do this, and now I'm excited that you're able to get all 4 teams in Grand Rapids. It's a great showcase through the Hall of Fame too, the Grand Rapids Hall of Fame, to show just how good hockey is at the ACHA level in Grand Rapids.
Yeah, so Mark Kimball's been great to work with. They had always done this at the basketball level between Aquinas and Calvin and Hope, and because those respective schools and Cornerstone, a couple of them are NAI, Calvin and Hope are NCAA D3. I think eventually it got to the point where it started to hurt the rankings because those games wouldn't necessarily correlate into rankings for both NCAA D3 and for NAIA. So after a long-standing, I think 20-plus year run of doing this with basketball, the ADs at those respective schools had mentioned to the Grand Rapids Sports Hall of Fame, why don't you do it for hockey?
Yeah.
Because they're all competing in the same division at the same level. And so then they made the switch over to hockey, and we've had, between the 4 schools and Mark Kimball and the Grand Rapids Sports Hall of Fame people, they've been great to work with. They're putting on a great show here. We hope that it's well attended, and that there's some charity. It's a charity event too. So it's kind of exciting to be able to add this and get into the Grand Rapids sports landscape. We've always kind of run a little bit under the radar, so to speak. Even though we get great crowds when we have these local rivalry games.
Oh, for sure. They're so much fun.
Yeah. So kind of maybe getting the limelight a little bit will help. And we're really looking forward to it.
So I got to ask you, you mentioned the great rivalries and everything, and it's fun. You get a full house, but it seems like when these teams play, it's always so close. Mike, do you enjoy it? Do you really enjoy it? Are you just too wound up and too worked up to enjoy a game like that as a head coach?
Well, I mean, as a head coach, you want to make sure your head's in the game, so to
Yeah.
speak, right? Make sure you're not missing anything. Make sure that your line rotations are on point, that you're prepared for. But I mean, there's an enjoyment part of it too.
Yeah.
I feel very blessed every day that I get to do what I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
And I feel very, very, very fortunate to be able to do that and being part of those rivalry games and hopefully a long-standing tradition as it pertains to this tournament that we're starting this year. Those types of things are special. The GLI, not the long-standing tournament in Detroit, right?
Yep.
We kind of like to try to start something like that here at our level, and because we have such great followings between all of our teams, we really think that maybe not to the same degree as large schools like Michigan, but in our own way, with the Grand Rapids is a college town, even though we don't have an NCAA D1 school here.
Right.
So that's we're looking forward to it, and we want to thank Mark and the Grand Rapids Sports Hall of Fame for taking this on.
So you've got the tournament this weekend, Mike, and then you guys get a little bit of a break. I've asked the coaches. I can ask you the same thing. What do the kids do with the break to stay kind of? I know you got exams coming up. Every school does, but what do the kids do to stay focused and maybe not get too rusty on the Christmas break?
Well, that's a great question, Lucas. My guess in some cases are as good as yours.
Yeah.
Right. Because my roster, we have, Christos from Poland, Quentin's from Switzerland. I've got, I think, 10 other Canadians. Unlike a lot of the other teams that are playing this weekend, I have some kids from Michigan, but not a lot. Yeah. So once exams are done, they need that mental break from school.
Boy.
And so to go home, spend time with family, I just encourage them, say, hey, let's stay in shape as best you can. If you can find ice back home, find ice, skate with your old high school team or your old junior teams, and do the best that you can. And then when we come back, be ready for the gauntlet again. It's like starting the season all over again, like we did in September.
Oh,
so, but then the second semester is very short, right? So,
yeah.
first semester is more of a marathon type of approach. Second semester is more of a sprint.
And you guys are starting out of the gate. My goodness, you got 2 ranked teams, Grand Valley, and then of course Adrian. We all know how good those 2 teams are, and you guys are right up there with them. So yeah, you got no time to rest on any laurels that you have, boy. You talk about getting out in the chute. Holy cow!
Yeah, so that's at hockey.
Yeah.
Right? At some point in time, you got to play everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're looking forward to those challenges. Of course, we've got this weekend that's right in our view. And then of course, as a coach, you're always looking, how do we plan? So we'll bring the guys back, around January 4th or 5th.
Yeah.
That'll get us a good, 8, 9, 10 days to get prepared for Grand Valley. And then after we play Grand Valley, we've got a 2-week stretch in there. So we don't play the following weekend, and that's the weekend after that is when we play Adrian. Yeah. So it's in terms of being able to, we won't have any excuses. We'll definitely have enough time to prepare for those teams.
Do you yourself get any kind of a break, or do you use it for recruiting, or?
Well, so being a college coach, there's, I think my wife can attest to this. There's really no break. It just changes.
Okay.
So we'll finish this weekend as an example, and then next Wednesday, leave for showcase in Florida, showcase in Las Vegas. I have my assistant coaches going to Chicago and Minnesota, and another assistant coach heading to Ontario. So it just changes, right? The focus changes on what you're doing. So it's a break from your team, but it's not really a break because you're coaching in the season that you have, but then you're also trying to prepare for the future season.
Last thing before I let you go, I read something today. It was about an hour and a half ago online, and I wanted to pick your brain. I noticed an article where they were saying that now the NCAA teams are allowed to play ACHA teams and back and forth. Would you ever envision you guys taking on, I don't know, Michigan State or Western, their NCAA teams, or is that a pipe dream? I know like Liberty's played some teams like Denver and UNLV, and they were okay, but they most of the time didn't fare too well. Is that something that is a little far-fetched for you guys, or would that be something you'd entertain never doing?
So that's a great question, because I read the same article.
Okay.
And then with Lindenwood's move this year to NCAA D1 with Coach Zombo there, last year they went and played Denver, lost 9-1. Now, for those listening and don't know, Denver won the whole thing at the NCAA D1 level last year. So they're pretty good, right? They got future NHLers on there, and so those scores are definitely lopsided. But you're also talking about a fully funded NCAA D1 athletic team versus a team that gets no money for hockey, right?
Right.
Now Lindenwood's in that place, in the same place as that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so now they're starting to, I think Coach Zombo's team has won 4 games at the NCAA D1 level. And in that article that you mentioned, Lou, it talked about the differences between NCAA D1 and UNLV and Liberty.
Yeah.
And what really kind of resonated with me was the NCAA D1 coaches' quotes about they were surprised at the level that they encountered when they played UNLV and Liberty.
Mm-hmm.
So for us here at Calvin, we're an NCAA D3 institution. COVID year, we had scheduled a couple of games with Chatham, an NCAA D3 program out of Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, those got canceled because of COVID. But we're looking to, especially here at Calvin now with our new president, the advancement of hockey is what we're exploring at this point. So for us to go play Michigan, for instance, that seems to be pretty far stretch for me.
Sure.
But getting into the NCAA D3 world, that's kind of Calvin's sweet spot. That's what our athletic program is in all of our other sports.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the focus for me.
That makes perfectly good sense to me. That would be fun to see, and I could see that in the future. It's just the way that you guys have advanced, and it's been fun to watch from the outside. And I think you're doing it the right way. Taking the right steps. It's exciting.
Yeah, and like I said, our new president is a Canadian citizen. He's also a U.S. citizen and a Dutch citizen and a Nigerian citizen.
Wow.
But he was a student at Calvin, and one of the student jobs was selling hockey tickets.
Okay.
Wow. So he's, we're starting, we're going to have, we used to have one of the few undefeated American football programs in the country, but eventually we're not going to necessarily be able to say that because we never had football. But that's so we are, athletics is advancing at Calvin, and we've always had such a tremendous athletic program to begin with, and our new president and administration are looking to enhance that as well. So I can see in the very near future NCAA hockey at Calvin, along with all the ACHA offerings and on both the men and women's side.
Well, that sounds exciting. Can't wait for that. Well, Mike, I'm going to let you go. I appreciate you taking time out tonight to be with us. This is always a lot of fun catching up with you. Good luck this weekend with the Hall of Fame Classic. And again, congratulations with the World Games coming up in Romania. Good luck. Keep it going. I know the ultimate goal is Boston. Hope to see you there. But we'll see you before that somewhere in Grand Rapids at a game, I'm sure.
Well, Lou, thank you so much for everything you do for the ACHA hockey world, and it's always great to catch up with you too.
All right. Happy holidays. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
You bet. Coach Mike Petrusma from Calvin University, ranked number 8 going into this week's rankings in Division I. They've had a great start to the season. Great insight with especially talking about playing some of the teams at the NCAA D1 level. And again, for those of you that know, they started out at D3, and they were very, very good at the D3 level for a lot of years. Gradually made the jump up to D1, and it was a little bit of a struggle for them. But I'll tell you what, they're getting to the point now where they are a force to be reckoned with. Back in 2020, the COVID year, they were slated to go to Dallas in the Nationals in the national tournament that got canceled. Ironically enough, their opening round opponent that year was Aquinas at the D1 level down in Dallas. I think they were both ranked I want to say 15th and 16th or right around there. So they've gotten a taste now. They're keeping it. Hopefully they can keep it going. Again, this weekend, they're playing in what the Grand Rapids Hall of Fame Classic. If you're in the Grand Rapids area, the Eagles Ice Center, I definitely encourage you to check it out. Some great hockey there. Davenport, which is always right there in the national rankings. Aquinas and Grand Valley, who's enjoying a very, very good season as well. So thanks to Mike Petrusma for joining us here tonight on the ACHA Power Play. We're brought to you on the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube. You'll be able to watch this on the ACHA network or acha.hockey.org website. It will be posted there as well. And of course, we are powered up by the Belly Up network of podcasts, bellyup.com. Check them out for all the list of the podcasts that we do, all the major sports, football, basketball, hockey, baseball, you name it. World Cup, we're doing a lot with that. And also check out our articles. They are top of the line. We've got a great staff of writers and podcasters, and it's growing and growing ever so much. That's the Belly Up network of podcasters, writers, you name it. And I am thoroughly blessed to be a part of it, humbled to be a part of that community, and we're growing, and it's going to be a lot of fun in 2023. Still to come here on the show tonight, we're going to be joined in about 6 or 7 minutes by Keller Sims, the head coach of the University of Arkansas, the Razorbacks men's Division III squad. They have been to the Nationals 2 years in a row. They've been almost to the mountaintop. They've been to the finals and they've been to the semis. And unfortunately, they've run into a buzzsaw each year, that, of course, being Hope College. But they're back in the top 10 in the rankings. And I know they've got that in the back of their mind. And we'll talk to Keller Sims about that here, as I mentioned, in about 5 minutes. So right now, what I'd like to do while we've got a minute is, if I can bring them up real quick, let's take a look at the rankings in men's Division 1. Well, let's see if I can get them up on the screen and share them with you here. Always a work in progress here with this, so bear with me real quick while I see if I can get those up on the screen. And it looks like we may have those. Let me double check on it. Indeed, we do. All right. And as we look at the latest rankings, you can see Minot State in Division 1. They're number 1, perfect at 11-0. Then you got Liberty at number 2. They bumped up a couple of spots. Adrian College, again, Gary Estalis' team, always right up there. 14-2-1 at number 3. UNLV at number 4. Central Oklahoma at number 5. Jamestown at 6. Ohio at 7. Calvin at 8. Indiana Tech, we talked about that. We're going to effort to get Indiana Tech's coach Frank Cristofaro on for next week's show. They may flip-flop as Indiana Tech took 2 from Calvin last weekend, as Coach Petrusma mentioned, 5-2 and 5-1. Maryville at 10, Niagara at 11. They split with Aquinas this past weekend. Arizona State at 12, Pittsburgh at 13. Ken Gaffney's squad at Lawrence Tech, they're in at 14, and Illinois State at 15. Indiana University of Pennsylvania 16, Grand Valley 17th, Arizona 18th, Stony Brook 19, and of course we've got the University of Utah coming in at 20th. So there's the rankings for this week's show. The rankings for the men's Division 1. And again, the newest ones will be coming out probably tomorrow. And so I'm sure we'll see a little bit of movement there. But how it works in men's Division 1, they take the top 20 teams and they do a round robin a bracketed style single elimination tournament. The top teams get a bye in the opening round. The top 4 teams, I believe it is. And then they do a first day of games. And it is one of those. It's win and you move on. So that's the irony of the D1 tournaments, while the other ones have pool play. Well, let's go back to our guest line, and let's bring in the head coach of the University of Arkansas, and that, of course, is Keller Sims. Keller, thanks for joining us tonight. How are you? Welcome back.
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Well, you guys are off to another fantastic start this year, just like where you left off in the regular season last year. Talk a little bit about how your season's going so far in this 2022-23 season.
Yeah, it's been another good one for us. Got off to kind of a slow start by our standards. Split with Missouri State that first weekend, and then with Mizzou after that. But kind of righted the ship right around the time with the Route 66 showcase there in Springfield, and rattled off a lot of big wins, quite a few shutouts in a row, and the guys are playing with a lot of confidence, and things are going well for us.
So, I got to bring it up. You guys have had a couple of great runs at nationals. I've been blessed to be a part of them, broadcasting them the last couple of years. Man, oh man, Now, I'm going to ask you the Captain Obvious question. How much of motivation from those are you taking into this year?
I think it's a big driving force for us, especially for our older guys who, had quite a bit of adversity, had a pretty solid team the year that COVID happened, and never had a chance to show it at nationals. And then the following year, losing in the championship game, and then last year blowing a 2-0 lead against Hope in the semifinals, and what was a really good hockey game. So we definitely have a chip on our shoulder, and know we have something to accomplish this season, and use that to motivate us. But also, this is a different season, different group of guys. We have to trust in the process and build each day. So we are making it to that tournament at the end of the season, and hopefully can get over that hump.
Now, I'm just going to ask you one more question on that game last year, and then I'll leave it alone. As a head coach, the way, the heartbreaking loss, do you look back on it, and do you take any positives at all away from it, or do you just try to just throw it away and wish that people like me wouldn't ask questions about it?
No, I think I don't think you get any better if you just forget about those moments and you don't take them and use them to get better or look at the positives.
Mm-hmm.
That was a heck of a hockey game we played with the eventual national champion. We hung with them. We had the lead. I think we dictated the pace at times. I think they dictated the pace at times. You just got to be proud to take our team, and especially a southern school like Arkansas trying to win that national championship that's been dominated by that NCHC conference. To be there on that stage and to have a realistic chance at it and to be that close, definitely proud of our boys. Obviously, it still hurts, and it hurt pretty bad at the time, but can look back on a lot of positives of that game and that season, just like the last few.
Well, we're joined by Keller Sims, head coach of the University of Arkansas. The men's D3 squad are ranked 6th in the latest poll. Keller, I'm just going to bring up your stats for your squad. I look at again. You've got Griffin Sugasawara. You've got Cameron McAtee right up there, putting some points up. Keller, I looked at some of these are staggering. At 55 points for Cameron in 19 games. Griffin, 37 points. Zach Wilson, 42. Just so impressive with what you're able to put up so far this year.
Yeah, it's a blessing to be able to coach players with that much skill. It's crazy what they can do with the puck, especially McAtee back there on the back end. He can make an impact, from the entire play. He's breaking it out, he's lugging the puck, and he's putting it in the back of the net. All those guys are old for us. McAtee, Sugasawara, and McLean, all on the top end are fifth-year seniors. Then Wilson and Ellis, fourth-year seniors. So a lot of experience playing together, a lot of experience in our systems and what we're trying to accomplish. And it's really clicking for those guys this season, definitely.
And I look at that, like you mentioned on the back end with Cameron McAtee, defenseman leading the way with 55 points, 7 power play goals. That to me is just as impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. And, teams even will key in on him up there, and he's smart enough player that when that starts to happen, he starts to distribute it, to the other guys on that unit and make things happen. I mean, he's even on the season. I think he's got like 27, 28 goals and assists.
Wow.
So he can do it all for us. That first unit, that he's on with those guys, they've been together for 3 years now. So it's just it's fun to watch what they can do in practice and then when it carries over into games.
And of course, we talk to every coach, every successful coach, and when you've got a record as good as yours, the back end is doing well. And I look at these goalie stats with Noah Goodwin and Sam Haynes. It's 67 goals against and 1.09 for Haynes, the goals against as well. Save percentages over 935. That's astronomical, and that's a good problem to have when you have to juggle who you want to play with goalies that do that well.
Absolutely. A lot of questions around here for teams that were familiar with us and kind of some of the media that covers us is how are we going to replace Joseph Dusenka, who had such a big impact? And I said, plenty of confidence in the guys that we have, and I think they're showing why we have that confidence. Sam has really elevated his game since he got here as a freshman. Noah's the same way, so is Grady, all 3 guys that we've relied on this season. Early on, I think our team kind of left them out to dry, and we relied on them really heavily. And it's kind of all come together, and I think they'll agree when they say they're not having to work too hard most nights, but whenever we need them to make that big save or come up for us, they definitely do it, and we can rely on them each night.
We talked at the beginning of the interview about, the back-to-back trip to nationals, and, you guys got some lofty expectations and well-deserved. How difficult was that on the boys in the beginning of the year? And it seems that, like you said, they've adjusted, but how difficult was that?
Yeah, I think it was tough. We hadn't lost an opening season game or weekend, I don't think, since I had been a part of the program. And then to drop division games as well. Missouri State's in our conference, and so is Mizzou. I told them, we've got to get after it here. We're chasing just our division. You guys want to go to nationals? We might not even be at our conference tournament. So it was definitely a wake-up call for us, but I think it was good. I mean, you obviously want to have those moments early in the season versus late. Face some adversity, take a learning experience as an opportunity, and kind of right the ship. And I think they did that. Early on, the biggest hole for us was defensively. We weren't taking enough pride in our defensive zone, taking too many chances. Everybody wants to make the highlight play, and the boys worked hard to get into the details and play the right way, and it shows the second half of the semester for us for sure.
So now you've got a little bit of a break. I think you've got like a month and a half off before you go get back into action in the Miami of Ohio showcase. And you're going to have 3 big games there. And what's your timetable? When do the boys get back? I know they probably have finals yet for this semester, but what's your timetable when you get the guys back and get the rust off? When do they come back to practice then?
Yeah, that's going to be a tough test right out of the gate for us. We'll come back the weekend before classes start, or the week before classes start for camp. I think that for us this year is January 13th-ish, around that time off the top of my head. We'll go through our winter training camp, knock the Christmas break pounds off, get the rust off. And then just a normal week of practice for us before we head up to Miami, and a really good opportunity for us that weekend against IUP, Miami, and Grand Valley, teams that we don't normally get to play down here. So we're always ready for those opportunities and look forward to playing those more northern Midwestern schools.
Well, if that works to knock off the Christmas pounds, will you send me a video and email me a video of that, of what it takes to get those Christmas pounds off? Because, man, I've got them on already. I need all the help I can get, man.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think it works for us anymore, but for them, it does. It's not as hard, I don't think.
Hey, I can try, man. I can try. That's
right.
What do you do during Christmas break? Do you get a chance to recharge yourself, or are you like every other coach that I know, out recruiting?
Yep, it's a little bit of both. Obviously, recruiting, that kind of this is the biggest time of year. There's a lot of showcases going on. Kids are starting to make decisions, narrow it down on what schools they're trying to go to. Recruiting is big for our program with where we're at.
Yeah.
We don't have any local Arkansas kids in the program right now. So, we've got to go out and find guys. And so we'll do that, but definitely we'll enjoy some weekends off at home, the holidays at home with the family. Wife will be happy, not at the rink all the time. And so a little bit of a recharge, but also, working in between as well.
Yeah, it's funny my wife always kids me. She says, well, I'm a football and a hockey widow from August until March or April. I said, boy, you're just lucky I'm not a coach, because I can step away. I don't have to do it 24/7 like you. I know I have my own day job, but the grind that you guys have to go through, I think is even more competitive and more stressful than it ever used to be, don't you think?
Definitely. I think each year I've been here has been a little bit more away from the rink, whether that's recruiting or film, trying to put together a competitive schedule around this for next season around this time of the year as well. It just never stops.
Yeah.
And I love it, right? That's why we
sure.
do this. So it's sometimes, towards the end of the fall semester, it can seem like a grind, and you get this nice break where you're not having to be at the rink early in the morning, kind of recharge the batteries for that spring push, which is going to be a big one for us with that Miami showcase weekend with our rival Mo State, and then right to conference championships, and then hopefully to nationals.
Yeah, I noticed that on your schedule, and then it said too that you've got after the conference tournament, you've got a couple of games with some D2 squad, and then you play Purdue. So it's kind of nice. I guess you got a little bit of you're not exactly going to take that month off before nationals if you're fortunate enough to get there. That keep the boys sharp, eh?
Yeah, that was the goal with the D2 games last year. We finished our conference championship, and then we were kind of on the shelf for, I want to say, almost 5-6 weeks before
Wow.
nationals.
Yeah.
And I think it showed with some rust in pool play for us for sure. So we set the jury games and then had an opponent cancel on us earlier this year, and we're able to add those games with Purdue, who are also having a really good season and look like a strong squad who will, if cards go right, will also be at nationals.
What do you guys need to do, do you think? Maybe if there's one thing, you're doing really well this year, but if there's one thing you think you got to work on, Keller, what would that be?
I think the one thing that we need to work on is staying composed and really focusing on the details in those tight games. It showed early in the season when we were playing tight games. We were playing some really strong squads, and the resiliency showed. The last few weeks, we've kind of been a part of some blowouts, and that killer instinct can kind of go away. And so we'll need to, sharpen that back up and be ready to go, because, when you start getting into the end of the season and you're playing conference championship games, hopefully national champions games, you're not going to have those 12-0, 10-0 crooked scores. You gotta be able to climb back from a 1-goal deficit, 2-goal deficit, stay composed and stay the course. So I think that will be the biggest test for us, is how we respond when we find ourselves in those situations.
Boy, that's a great point. I've noticed that in all the years I've been doing the nationals, the broadcast, that's the thing I look for in some of these teams now that have had the lofty records. How do they handle adversity? Because a lot of the teams that get there, they don't trail very often, and all of a sudden they get behind, and it's almost like they don't know how to react. And so that's a great point.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we had a test of it last year when we got to nationals. We had another good regular season, but then started off with an overtime game against Miami, Ohio, and then just could not find the back of the net despite out shooting Nebraska in that second game. Ended up taking a loss, and then had to end up with the pulled goalie against Notre Dame in pool play to advance. And the boys got it done. They never lost sight of what we were trying to do, and what was on the line. And so, hopefully we don't find ourselves in that dire of a situation this year. But
I remember that. Oh, and watching that, it's and I got to tell you, what is amazing to me too about your squad is your fan base that travels with you guys. I remember when they came to Grand Rapids, and then coming over to St. Louis, which was a lot shorter of a trip. Oh my goodness, they were loud. And how could that not get you guys fired up, man? That was so cool to be able to interact with them as well.
Oh, it's awesome. We have awesome fans. Our home building's always packed, and they travel well. Like you said, St. Louis is pretty close for us, and we had a really good turnout last year. But even all the way to Grand Rapids, and I'm sure Boston will be good for us as well.
Yeah.
It's unique because Arkansas doesn't have any professional sports. So everyone is just crazy about the Razorbacks here, and they don't care whether it's NCAA or club or whatever. You slap a Razorback on it and you have the successful team. People will come, people will support it, and they're all about it. And our fans are no different. And it's huge for us, no matter where we go, to have that kind of support.
Well, I think I've told you before, I've got family that lives down by Conway, so I've got a special place in my heart for Arkansas hockey. So it was tough for me to kind of stay a little unbiased in that semifinal and broadcasting your games throughout the year. Keller, one last question before I go. I know I've asked you this. Who's the team that you follow in the NHL? Who's your favorite?
I actually am a Red Wings fan.
Oh, that a boy. That
might get me some brownie points up there, right?
Oh, heck yeah, man. And they're actually playing pretty good this year. They I don't know how much you get to see, but they're strong. They're playing good for a young team. They got a little bit of an edge, and it's exciting for a change. Hopefully they get close to a playoff spot this year.
Yeah, they're sitting in one right now.
Yeah.
they're having a really good year. It's kind of like they're starting to establish an identity.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the free agents they brought in and the progression of the young players has been huge, but you know, they're tough to play against, and they'll give anybody their best game. So I'm excited. You know, I think we're headed in the right directions, and
Yeah.
next few years can hopefully knock off some of the rough times we've had over the past little bit here.
Well, Keller, I appreciate you coming on the show tonight. Go get some rest or whatever. Get back to doing what you're doing. Good luck in the second half of the year after the semester break. Good luck with the showcase and your conference tournament. And hopes we can see you in Boston coming up in March. I'll be there. I hope to run into you when you're there in that crazy fan base of yours, and maybe yell a little suey pig once or twice with them, and go get them. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. You guys have a good Christmas and Woo Pig.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Keller Sims, the head coach of the University of Arkansas Men's D3 hockey team, ranked number 6 right now in the latest poll. We'll bring that poll up for you here momentarily just to kind of give you an idea of the rankings in Division 3. And again, it works different now with the way it's set up. In the past, in Division 3, you did pool play in you did regional qualifying in the 4 regions: North, the West, the Southeast, and I believe the Central or the East, whatever it was. There was 4 regions, and the top 2 teams in each region got a bye, and then the rest battled it out for the other 2 spots to make the 16-team tournament in Division 3. Now it's all based on the computer rankings for the top 16 teams. And as you noticed right here, the latest rankings we have, you've got Springfield College at number 1, then the 2-time defending champion Hope College, Chris Van Timmeren's team at 13-1. They're ranked 2nd. And then Missouri State 3rd. They played Arkansas, as we mentioned. Then you got UMass 4, Notre Dame 5th, Arkansas again at number 6, the Air Force Academy 7. They're no stranger to the national tournament as well. They've been there for a few years. And you've got Sacred Heart at 8, the Maritime College at 9, Saginaw Valley State, Brendan Ryan's squad at number 10 this week, University of Michigan at 11. I know Saginaw Valley they swept their games last week with U of M Flint. Lawrence Tech again at 12, UConn at 13, New Mexico at 14, Grand Valley at 15, and Arizona State at 16. And then right outside, you got WPI at 17, Harvard at 18, Purdue at 19, having a good year, in Indiana at 20. So again, how that works is the top 16 teams get in, and then it goes to pool play. And you get 3 games, and more often than not, it takes all 3 wins to get in. Although, like Keller mentioned, if you get you can get a loss, but then you really got then it could come down to goal differential or whatnot. And I believe that's what the case was for their tiebreaker. But they ended up getting that game-winning goal head-to-head and beating Notre Dame. And well, that was one hell of a game too. And then, of course, they got into the semis against Hope, jumped out to a 2-0 lead and dropped an overtime thriller 3-2. And I was on the call of that game for Hockey TV, and that was one of the most exciting games I think I've ever been able to call at the ACHA level. It was right down to the end. And again, I say it all the time. For those of you that watch me here on this podcast or on our show, you think the stigma of club hockey, the level of competition, it has gotten so much better over the years, even in the last 7 years that I've been involved. The speed, the skill set. A lot of these schools, a lot of these kids, there's only 70 Division I schools. We talked about this, and I believe about the same amount of D3 and NCAA level. So there's a lot of great competition, a lot of great talent left out there at the college level. And this is a great alternative. And I'm telling you what, it is very competitive. And some of the D1 squads, they could hang with the D3 schools at the NCAA level, and even some of the D1 schools. And again, you get to the D2 and the D3 level on the men's side. And same with the women at the women's D1 and D2 side. Let's take a quick look. We're going to bring up the D1. The latest rankings in the D1 are out as well. And we'll take a quick look at that here, see if I can bring that up real quick. Let's see here, make a fibber out of me yet. I thought I had them up. Maybe I don't have them. I could have swore I had them up. But anyways, the women's D1 rankings. Oh, here we are. Okay. Let's see if we can't bring those up. So bear with me for a second. Okay. The D1 rankings are out. Liberty again, number 1. Then you've got Adrian at 2, Indiana Tech at 3, Midland at 4. Then you've got Minot State, always a national power. Michigan at 6, Miami at 7, Arizona State at 8, UMass at 9, and Maryville at 10. And then you've got McKendree, Lindenwood, Grand Canyon, Jamestown, and Michigan Dearborn. Now, how it works for them, it is the top 10 get in, and then they do kind of a double elimination tournament with the buys, and then you get into the Final Four and then the championship round. So, there's some great competition level at the women's D1 and the D2 level as well. So it's a great brand of hockey, and everybody comes together, and it's going to be this year, all 5 divisions in one location. It's going to be in Boston, just outside of Boston, Massachusetts, at Marlborough, Massachusetts. So really looking forward to that. I'm excited to say I'll be there. I hope I can see you all there. Stop by and say hi. You'll see this bald head walking through the arena and the facility there. Please stop by and say hi. I enjoy getting a chance to interact with the coaches and the players and the fans. And we talked about the showing that the University of Arkansas brings, and they travel so well. Hope College at the D3 level, they bring a ton of fans no matter where they go. Seems like they always bring a ton of fans. And even at the D1 level, all the schools, Liberty always brings a good set of fans along with them. The North Dakota schools with Dakota College of Botano, the University of Mary, Minot State, all bring such a fan base with them. And it just makes it that much more fun. And, again, it's a great brand of hockey too, because for a lot of these kids, this is their last stop in competitive hockey. And so they leave it all out on the line. And it just makes it that much more fun to watch. So, well, hey, that's going to do it for our show tonight. I want to thank Mike Petrusma for stopping by, the head coach of Calvin University. If you're in Grand Rapids this weekend, again, I suggest you check out the Grand Rapids Hall of Fame Classic. They're going to have 4 ACHA Men's D1 teams. It's going to be at the Eagles Ice Center. It's going to be Calvin. It's going to be Aquinas, Grand Valley, and Davenport. Calvin will take on Davenport, and then Aquinas takes on Grand Valley. And then there'll be games there on Saturday as well. So a good weekend of games, all 4 teams in action. It's a good showcase of Grand Rapids area hockey talent, as Coach Petrusma said. So invite you to stop on out and check that out Friday and Saturday. Great college hockey in the Grand Rapids area. If you're there, I really highly recommend you stop on by and check that out. And want to thank Keller Sims for joining us, the University of Arkansas Men's Division III hockey coach. They're as well off on break until the middle of January. But when they get back, as Coach Petrusma said, we've always said on the show, the marathon part of the season is over this weekend. You come back from Christmas break, you've got about 5 or 6 weeks left. So the sprint is on, and then it's nationals. Before you know it, nationals are going to be here. It's 3 months and a week away, and then we drop the puck on the national tournament. It's that quick. I mean, this season has flown by, as it always does. And again, make sure you keep track right here on the ACHA Power Play. Once we get closer, we'll have all the rankings. We'll get you all set up. We'll be your eyes and ears getting you set up for nationals. And we got some exciting things coming up we're going to work with here with the ACHA. We're going to, while I'm at nationals, I'll have the podcast going just about every day. We'll keep you up to date on all that. If you aren't able to see the games live, you can get all the results with me at the national tournament. And we'll get coach interviews, the whole bit. It's go time there, and I enjoy it, man. It's a 12 to 14 hour day every day at the national tournament. But for me, that's not work, man. That is enjoyment and a labor of love, and I can't wait to bring it. And like I said, that's 3 months and a week. Puck drop on March 16th, live from Boston, Massachusetts. That is the 2023 ACHA National Tournament. We want to thank the folks at Belly Up Sports for powering us up here tonight with another edition of the ACHA Power Play. Tomorrow, I'll have another edition of the Captain Lou Extravaganza, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Mitch Bernstein will join us in the bottom of that first hour as we talk football. We've got a lot to talk about football, but the winter meetings are going on in baseball, and we're going to get up to date on the silly season in baseball. We'll talk NFL tomorrow. We'll talk the college football playoffs, the silly season, that is the transfer portal, and who's at the top of the list there. The crazy coach himself, Coach Prime, Deion Sanders. We'll give our take on that and everything tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. Make sure you join us for that. Well, again, that's going to do it. Thanks, everybody, for joining us tonight. Thanks again to our guests tonight, Mike Petrusma from Calvin and Keller Sims from the University of Arkansas. And thank you, the viewer. This is Captain Lou saying keep your heads up, keep your sticks down, keep your feet moving, and as always, keep your minds open. We'll see you next week for another edition of the ACHA Power Play right here on the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter, as it says, Real Captain Lou and the Captain Lou Extravaganza. So long, everybody. We'll see you next week. Enjoy some hockey this weekend, will you? I'm sure you will.